The genius in a person comes into the world to give something, to contribute something, and to follow a kind of unfolding story that is somehow seated inside before birth, waiting for the opportunity to burst into the world. Recently, Mosaic began its Genius Project. And the idea of it arises from the circumstances of modern life. To be alive at this time in the world means to be, in a certain sense, subject to threats that can come from the side of culture, such as terrorism and various things of that kind, or from the side of the world of nature. And what's going on there is radical climate change, intensified global warming. And so you get on one side the melting of the ice caps and how that kind of threatens the sense of stability in the world. And on the other side, you get the meltdown of cultural institutions, including the polarization inside religions that produce terrorist threats and so on. And so to be alive now is to be under a kind of threat, or to be in a world that borders on chaos, so that it seems that things could turn upside down at any moment. So the question then is, what do people do? What does the individual do? And I think for the moment I'm thinking about the individual. How does the individual find a sense of solid ground and grounding, find a sense of stability in a world that is not only rapidly changing, but that can be disturbing and threatening? And one of the old answers about how a person finds stability, direction, purpose, and grounding in their life has to do with the notion of human genius. Genius is an old word that has lots of meanings, but one of its meanings is the spirit that's already born inside a person before they're born. The notion that each person brings a certain kind of spirit for life, to life, and the fact that each of those individual life spirits is unique. So the Genius Project is about finding the spiritual orientation natural to a person, as well as becoming more aware and more conscious of the uniqueness inside each individual. So I'm saying that when the world rattles, when nature itself becomes topsy-turvy, when culture is no longer the protection it's supposed to be for the individual, the place to go might be deep inside, where there is waiting to awaken in every person, young or old, their native, indigenous genius. Normally people think of genius as high IQ or great intelligence, but it's really something more about the style, about the leaning and the meaning and the purpose inside a person. So we're starting this Genius Project with the idea that a person is not empty. Rather, each person comes to the world with something seeded and sown into their soul that is waiting for the opportunity to awaken. When the genius is awake, all of a sudden, a person has meaning inside themselves, waiting to come out in some form of expression. And not only that, a person has direction, because the genius, the nature of genius, is to be aimed at something. That is to say, the genius in a person comes into the world to give something, to contribute something, and to follow a kind of unfolding story that is somehow seated inside before birth, waiting for the opportunity to burst into the world. Now, there's another big idea associated with this, which is that the problems in the world are so great, the complexity of the problems so rich, the depth of the trouble increasingly greater, that there is no one solution for the problems of the world. In fact, there has to be many solutions, and I'm suggesting, and what the Genius Project is based around, is that the deepening, threatening, at times overwhelming problems of the world in both the direction of culture and the direction of nature are only going to be solved if more people awaken to their innate genius, find the direction of their life, and begin moving into the work of healing and solving and remaking the world.